Let's sew the side slant pocket. So you fuse your pieces and then you overlock your edges as per the written instructions. And now we're going to connect our front facings to our front lining. You're just sewing in the overlock to connect. Make sure you go down and make the turn. So the needle's down, press your foot up, pivot, press your foot back down, and finish. Next, we do the same thing for our back facing and our back lining pieces. So we are going to sew in the overlock and we're connecting our back facing to our back lining. Now that we've connected in our overlock, we are going to stay stitch at the waist, which is our upper edge, and our sides. And the stay stitch just keeps two pieces together so that we can do other sewing on top of the stay stitch. So we repeat. Now we're going to stay stitch our other pieces in the same manner. So right across the top, which is our waist, and down the sides. So now that we've connected our facing to our lining pieces for our pocket bags, it's time for us to get ready to sew them to the pants. So let's start with the front. So this is our pocket front, and we are going to sew it to our pants front. And you will see that the notch matches and the same shape. So face to face, we are going to put them together and we are going to sew at our seam allowance, which is 1/4 of an inch. Of course, backstitch at the beginning and end. Make sure that you do make that pivot turn. So it's a straight from the waist coming downward, and then there's a tiny little portion that turns so that we can have the exact shape. So follow that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then at that pivot, make sure that you clip. Go close to the thread but not through it. The next step is to go to the iron and press the seam allowance that we just sewed towards the lining, not towards the pants, but towards the lining. So now that we have pressed that seam allowance toward the lining of our pocket bag, it's time for us to understitch. And we want to be close, maybe a 1/16 of an inch away. I'll accept an 1/8 of an inch at the most. Make sure once again that you do make the pivot turn at the bottom edge there as you're sewing them together. So this under stitching, of course, we are back stitching at the beginning and end, and you want to make that pivot turn. Now that we've done that, it's going to be time for us to sew the pocket back to our front at the rounded edge. So we've just made our facing for the pants front, and now it is time for us to connect that front of our pocket lining to the back of our pocket lining. So the pocket bags are going to be connected at the curved edges. And of course you want to match your notches. So we're going to put our two pocket pieces together face to face and sew at the curved edge following our notches, which is that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Next, we're going to overlock that same curved edge. And now we are going to sew with a stay stitch the upper edges of our pocket and the side edges of our pocket to keep them together. The stay stitch is going to be 1/4 inch seam allowance. So that's the waist and the side. We are stay stitching together to our pants. So we're going through all the layers. And now that we have stay stitched it together, our pocket bag is actually usable. So we've just sewn it to our pants front, and now we have a usable pocket. Overlock for presentation purposes, and that is it for our side slant pocket.